Beloved chosen one, pause right here. Heaven itself has interrupted your scrolling. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. Everything around you, every sound, every distraction has been silenced for a sacred reason. God has placed His hand upon this moment because you needed to hear this. You were not meant to give up. You are still in the middle of the story He is writing, and He is not done with you. Listen carefully. The reason you felt so heavy lately, the reason the world seems to press in on you from all sides, is because your spirit is on the edge of breakthrough. The pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. You are not being crushed. You are being refined. Heaven knows your name, your battles, your sleepless nights, and the tears that no one else sees. And yet, here you are still standing, still breathing, still searching for the light. That's not weakness. That's divine endurance. Every chosen one goes through a moment like this, a moment where everything seems still, where heaven seems quiet, where prayers hang unanswered in the air. But I tell you this in truth, silence is not absence. The God who called you has not left you. You may feel forgotten, but you are being observed by the eyes of heaven. You may feel overlooked, but you are being prepared for revelation. You have wondered, why does this keep happening to me? Why does it seem like others move ahead while I'm stuck? But beloved, those who walk with a divine mantle do not move by the calendar of man. You move by the timing of heaven. God hides His treasures before He reveals them. And you, yes, you are one of His hidden ones. The delay you hate so much is actually protection. He has been building a foundation under you that will not crack when the blessing arrives. Remember, these hidden seasons are holy seasons. When nothing seems to happen, everything is actually happening in secret. Heaven is arranging what your eyes cannot see. The silence is not punishment, but divine strategy. God is shaping you into someone who can hold the weight of the promise without collapsing. Keep trusting, for the unveiling is nearer than you think. The prophet wrote long ago in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." These words were not written for a people who had it all together. They were spoken to a people who were weary, uncertain, and waiting for deliverance. And yet, God promised renewal. That same promise breathes over you now. You have grown tired. Yes, but your tiredness is not the end. It's the signal that renewal is near. The enemy wants you to believe you are finished, that the light has gone out. But heaven says otherwise. You were not built to collapse. You were built to rise again. There is divine power dormant within you, waiting for this exact moment to awaken. You are an eagle in a storm, not a sparrow in the rain. Take a breath. Let the presence of God steady your heart. You are not hearing this by chance. This is heaven's whisper through the noise of the world, my child. I am not done with you. Your journey has felt like ashes, but those ashes are the soil where resurrection takes root. You will rise. You will see why you had to walk through this season. And when you do, you will realize that every tear watered the seed of purpose. The pain that almost broke you will become the testimony that blesses others. Your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. They prove that you've wrestled with darkness and refused to surrender your light. And God says, I have seen it all. I will reward every hidden act of faith. Chosen one, Do not let discouragement speak louder than destiny. When you can't see what's ahead, trust that the author of your story has already written the next chapter. He has promised not to leave you in the middle of your mess. You are being redefined, not rejected. You are being renewed, not replaced. So, lift your head, wipe your tears. Heaven still has plans for you. The same God who breathed life into your lungs will breathe purpose into your pain. What tried to destroy you will soon become your platform. You will speak from this valley, and others will find courage through your victory. Now, if this message has reached your heart, if something inside you whispers, "This is for me," then act in faith. Don't let this holy moment fade into the scroll. Tap the heart. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below the prophetic number 777 to declare, "I will not give up. For God is not done with me." Let that be your sign to heaven that you are ready to rise again. This is your divine reminder. You are chosen. You are seen. And your story is still being written by the hand of the Almighty. The battle you are in is not proof that you are losing. It is proof that you are chosen. Every warrior marked by heaven must first endure the fire that forges their spirit. You have been wondering why life has felt like one wave after another, crashing before you could even catch your breath. But listen closely. Chosen one, God does not train weak soldiers. The level of opposition you face reveals the magnitude of destiny that rests upon your life. The enemy would not fight so hard for someone who had nothing valuable to steal. The attacks are not random, they are targeted. The weight you feel pressing against you is not a sign of failure, it is a sign that you carry something sacred. If you were ordinary, the storm would have passed quickly. But because you are extraordinary, heaven has allowed you to endure, knowing that what remains after the fire will be unbreakable. Every tear you have shed has been recorded in heaven's book. Not one cry has gone unheard. The moments when you felt invisible were moments of divine observation, not neglect. You were seen even in your silence, carried even in your confusion. You are still standing because grace has been standing guard over you. There are times when you have asked, "Why does God let me fight battles I never asked for?" But the truth is, every chosen one must face an enemy that reveals their true identity. You cannot discover your strength until resistance tests it. You cannot know the power of light until you stand surrounded by darkness. That's why this battle, though fierce, is sacred. It is where you meet the God of victory, not the God of comfort. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, it was not because they were lost. It was because God was about to display His power in a way they had never seen. Your own Red Sea stands before you now, an impossible situation, a blocked path, an ocean of fear, and yet, just as in those ancient days, heaven whispers, "Do not be afraid. I will make a way." You are not drowning, you are being carried. You are not abandoned, you are being strengthened. What feels like resistance is divine resistance training. Every step you take in faith builds spiritual muscle. Every time you choose to believe instead of breaking down, heaven records your obedience as victory. The fire you're walking through is not meant to consume you, it's meant to consume what cannot stay. Every false belief, every doubt, every insecurity is being burned away so that only your true self remains. That's why it hurts. Transformation always does. But once the refining is complete, your spirit will shine with a brilliance the darkness cannot comprehend. There are angels fighting beside you, even when you cannot see them. There are prayers you prayed months ago that are only now being answered. There are victories being written into your future that your present self cannot yet imagine. So do not misinterpret the battle as a curse. It is your confirmation. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 43, verse 2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, the flames will not set you ablaze. These words were not meant for the untested, they were meant for the chosen. God didn't say you would avoid the water or the fire, He said you would pass through it, and still stand. That is your promise, and that is your prophecy. So, when everything inside you wants to surrender, remember who walks beside you. You are not facing this battle alone. The same God who stood with Daniel in the lion's den, who strengthened David before Goliath, who calmed the storm for the disciples, He stands with you now. He does not retreat in the face of your fear. He steps forward, commanding peace where there was chaos. You have been misunderstood because the battle you fight is not visible to others. But heaven knows. Heaven sees. The unseen war around you has already been won by the power of the cross, and you are simply walking out the victory. Do not let temporary pain convince you that the outcome has changed. The ending has been written in glory, and your story leads to triumph. Every scar you carry is a line in your testimony. Every bruise is proof that darkness could not destroy your light. You are a living declaration that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. You may feel tired. Yes, but your tiredness is not defeat. It is the weight of victory being borne. Hold your peace, for God is still moving. The same voice that spoke creation into existence is speaking over your storm now. Be still. And as you choose to trust, even when you cannot trace His hand, the tide will shift. What seemed like loss will become legacy. What looked like pain will produce purpose. You were never meant to give up in the middle of the fight. You were meant to endure and emerge, transformed, stronger, wiser, radiant with divine fire. This is not the end. This is your equipping. And soon, when you look back, you will say, every battle was worth it, because through it, I found my God. You have been carried, not forgotten. Every step that felt heavy, every tear that fell silently into your pillow, every night you questioned if heaven still saw you, God was there. He was not watching from a distance. He was carrying you through the unseen storms that should have broken you. You thought you were alone. But the truth is, your loneliness was the sacred space where God drew closest. There are moments in every chosen life when strength seems to vanish. You wake up and feel the weight of a world that doesn't understand you. People who misjudge you, and doors that never seem to open. You pray, but it feels like your words fall to the ground. You look for a sign, but heaven seems silent. Yet, in that silence, God is moving in ways you cannot perceive. He has been walking beside you, rearranging what you could not see, protecting you from what you didn't know was coming. When you look back, you'll realize how many times disaster passed by you unnoticed, how many dangers were diverted because a divine hand said, "Not this one. This one belongs to me." You are not forgotten. Beloved, you are being preserved. You are being held by an unseen grace that refuses to let you fall. The enemy has tried to convince you that you've been abandoned, because things didn't go your way. But the truth is, you are not being punished, you are being positioned. Sometimes God allows the ground beneath you to shake, not to destroy you, but to move you to higher ground. You have prayed for blessings, and He has answered with battles, because battles birth strength, and strength sustains blessing. The Spirit reminds you through the writings of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 4, "Even to your old age and grey hairs I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you." The weight of those words should rest in your heart tonight. God doesn't just walk with you in youth or in moments of victory. He sustains you through every stage, every failure, every doubt, and every storm. Think back to the times you nearly gave up the night you whispered, "I can't do this anymore." The next morning, you still woke up. You still breathed. You still tried. That was not coincidence. That was divine breath sustaining your weary soul. You survived what others didn't because grace refused to let go. That's how precious you are to God. You are His investment, His creation, His chosen one. There is power in realizing that being carried is not weakness, it's mercy. It's the love of a father who refuses to let his child be consumed by despair. Even now, while you read these words, heaven is shifting things in your favor. God is working behind the curtain, changing the atmosphere of your life. What was once heavy will soon become holy. The pain that nearly crushed you will transform into peace that strengthens you. Do not let guilt or shame convince you that you are unworthy of that kind of love. You are not forgotten because of your mistakes. You are not too far gone. The same God who carried Moses through the wilderness, who sustained Elijah under the juniper tree, who restored Peter after his denial, that same God holds you now. He hasn't released His grip. He has simply been guiding you toward renewal. You may not feel His hand, but it is there. You may not hear His voice, but it still whispers your name in the quiet. And when you fall, heaven does not turn away, it leans closer. There is no fall too deep, no night too dark that can remove you from His reach. Let this truth anchor you. God does not forget what He creates. You were not made in haste, and you are not being left to fate. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And His commitment to you has not changed. He will carry you until the promise is fulfilled. And even then, He will still walk beside you. So now, breathe. Let the weight lift from your shoulders as you remember that your strength was never meant to come from yourself. You were never meant to carry this alone. Heaven has been carrying you, and heaven will continue to do so until your purpose shines in full glory. And when your heart feels weak again, and it will remember, this even weakness has value in the kingdom of God. For in weakness, His power is made perfect. You are sustained by a love that does not run out, by a mercy that does not expire. If this message has stirred something within you, let your spirit respond with faith. Comment below the simple phrase, "Still carried," a declaration that, though you have felt the weight of the world, you now know heaven's hands are beneath you. As you write it, let it remind you that you are not forgotten, not abandoned, not lost. You are carried by divine strength, seen by eternal eyes, and loved by the one who refuses to let you fall. There are seasons when life feels like a furnace, when every prayer seems to evaporate in the heat, when every hope seems to melt away. and you can no longer tell if you are being purified or punished. Chosen one, you must understand this. What feels like fire is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to refine you. You are not forgotten in the flames. You are being shaped by them. Every person marked by heaven must pass through hidden furnaces of preparation. God does not anoint you publicly before he has tested you privately. The furnace is the secret place where everything false burns away and everything true remains. It is the place where your calling is proven, not just proclaimed. You have cried, "Lord, why this pain?" And heaven replies, "Because I am shaping you for something greater than comfort." You cannot be trusted with the weight of glory until you have endured the weight of fire. The oil of anointing is costly because it is pressed from seasons of crushing. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every night of unanswered questions has been pressing you not to break you, but to extract what is divine in you. There is gold inside your soul that only fire can reveal. Sometimes God hides you in the heat so that no one else can interfere with what he is doing. You feel unseen because he is teaching you to be satisfied with his eyes alone. You feel isolated because he is purifying your motives. You feel empty because he is burning away every reliance that is not him. The furnace is not rejection, it is preparation for revelation. Do not mistake the silence of heaven for abandonment. When gold is refined, the smith watches silently. He does not speak while the metal glows, he only watches, eyes fixed, waiting for his reflection to appear in the molten surface. When he can see himself clearly, he knows the gold is ready. That is what God is doing in you. He is waiting for his image to shine through your soul. You have wondered, why does it have to hurt so much? Because deep transformation requires deep surrender. Superficial comfort cannot produce eternal character. God is not after your temporary ease, he is after your everlasting strength. What he builds in fire will never collapse in pressure. What he perfects in secret will one day shine in public, but only after it has endured the hidden season of heat. There are parts of you that could only grow in fire, faith that is unshakable, love that is unconditional, endurance that doesn't crumble under weight. These are not learned in peace, they are forged in pain. Every chosen one has a furnace story, a chapter where they nearly gave up but didn't, where they thought they lost everything but found God instead. The story of your life will not be defined by the fire that surrounded you, but by the faith that sustained you through it. The world sees flames, heaven sees formation. The very heat that makes you cry out, "Enough," is the same heat that makes you capable of carrying glory. Remember this, chosen one, every furnace has an exit. Every night of testing has a morning of testimony. You are not trapped, you are being transformed. Even now, the embers of your endurance are forging a crown of strength. When this season ends, you will rise, not burned, but blazing with purpose. Heaven speaks through the writings of Job, chapter 23, verse 10. He knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Those words were not written by a man of ease, but by one who lost everything. Job stood in the middle of ashes and declared trust. That is what God calls you to do, to believe not because it feels right, but because it is truth. The hidden furnace teaches you something no comfort ever could, that survival is not the same as surrender. You can survive pain and still be bitter, but when you surrender to its purpose, you emerge purified, radiant, renewed. The goal is not just to make it through the fire, it is to come out shining like gold. You are not defined by what you lose in the fire, but by what remains when the flames subside. The furnace burns away pride, fear, doubt, and everything that cannot last. What is left is pure, strong, and ready for the weight of purpose. You will look back one day and realize the fire you dreaded became the friend that refined you. So, if you are in the heat right now, take heart. You are not forgotten in the flames. You are seen, guarded, and molded by divine hands that will not let you be consumed. The furnace is fierce, but so is your destiny. You are coming forth not as the person you were, but as the vessel heaven has been waiting to reveal. There comes a point in every chosen life when the noise becomes too loud, when the voices of fear, doubt, and exhaustion drown out the gentle sound of God's whisper. You look around and everything feels chaotic, people speaking but not listening, the world rushing but not arriving, hearts performing but not connecting. Yet, in the midst of this confusion, heaven still speaks, and when it does not shout, it whispers, cutting through the storm like light through fog. You may not have noticed it, but that whisper has been following you. Every time you were about to give up, something inside whispered, "Not yet." Every time you stood at the edge of quitting, a quiet thought told you, "There's more for you." That wasn't your imagination, that was heaven's voice breaking through the noise. The world often expects thunder when God speaks, but the truth is, divine instruction rarely comes with drama. It comes in silence, in subtlety, in moments that seem ordinary but carry eternity within them. When Elijah fled into the wilderness, hiding from his enemies, he expected to find God in the wind, the fire, or the earthquake. But Scripture says the Almighty was not in any of those things. He was in the still, small voice. That same quiet strength is speaking to you now. You are not beyond reach. You have not missed your moment. The whisper of heaven still calls your name and says, "You were never meant to quit." The Apostle John recorded in his Gospel, chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." This verse isn't about religion, it's about relationship. God doesn't speak in riddles to strangers, He speaks in tenderness to His children. You, beloved, are not just a follower, you are known. He recognizes the sound of your soul, and when you wander, He calls you home with a whisper. There is a reason you are hearing this message right now. Perhaps your mind is tired of noise, the constant scrolling, the endless voices telling you who to be. Heaven's whisper calls you back to simplicity, to stillness, to truth. The same voice that formed galaxies now leans close to remind you, you are not forgotten. You are still chosen. Sometimes you won't hear God's voice because He's speaking through something else, the kindness of a stranger, the beauty of morning light, the unexpected message that stirs your spirit. He knows how to reach you in ways words can't. He knows the exact sound that will awaken your faith again. Take a moment, even now, to breathe, to let the noise fall away, to let His whisper find you again. And if this message has touched you, if you feel that still small voice stirring inside you, then let's keep building this circle of light together. These words aren't meant to stay hidden. They are seeds of encouragement meant to spread. When you like, share, or subscribe, you aren't just clicking a button, you're opening another door for Heaven's whisper to reach someone else who's standing on the edge of giving up. Think of it like this: every click becomes a candle lit in the dark. Every share is a ripple spreading across still water. Every new subscriber is another soul joining the army of light. And if you feel moved to give, even a small donation becomes like oil in the lamp. It helps the flame continue to burn, so that others wandering through night can find their way home. This isn't about numbers or platforms. It's about ministry. It's about reaching hearts that algorithms can't touch, but heaven still can. So, when you support, you're not helping a voice, you're helping a mission. You're helping the whisper of God continue to travel across screens, across nations, into the quiet corners of broken hearts. Chosen one, your life is a vessel, a transmitter of divine resonance. The same God who spoke galaxies into existence now speaks through your willingness to keep the flame alive. You may not stand on a stage or hold a microphone, but every small act of faith echoes louder in eternity than any sermon ever could. Listen again, the whisper hasn't stopped. It's saying, I am with you. It's saying, rise again. It's saying, do not be afraid, for I still have work to do through you. The world may not understand your silence, but heaven does. The world may not see your tears, but heaven counts every one. Let this be your reminder. God's voice is not always loud, but it is always clear. It doesn't come to impress, it comes to instruct. And if you can still hear that whisper, then you are not finished. You are still chosen, still called, still carried by divine purpose. Stay still, listen deeply, and when you hear that quiet tug in your spirit, respond not with fear, but with faith, for the whisper that calls you now will soon become the wind that lifts you higher. There are moments in life when heaven presses a divine reset. Everything that was familiar begins to shift, and you wonder if you've lost your way. The plans that once made sense suddenly crumble. The doors you prayed would open remain closed, and the people you trusted drift away. It feels like an ending, but in truth, it's the beginning of something new, something holy, something built by God's hands, not your own. Chosen one. You must understand this before God reveals glory. He clears ground. Before new oil flows, the old vessels must be emptied. This is why it feels like so much has been taken from you, not because heaven is punishing you, but because heaven is preparing you. The reset you're living through is not rejection, it is divine reordering. You have been asking, why did I have to lose so much? But loss in the kingdom of God is never wasted. When He removes, it's only to replace with something unshakable. You are being positioned for a greater season, one that requires lighter baggage and stronger faith. God is pulling you out of what was temporary so He can plant you in what is eternal. Heaven is saying, I'm not done with you yet. You have not missed your destiny. You are simply between seasons, the tearing and the planting, the breaking and the birthing. Every divine reset begins with disorientation, because what is familiar must die before what is promised can live. You may not recognize the terrain right now, but soon you will see that the ground under your feet is holy. There's something sacred about being stripped of everything you depended on. It reveals what cannot be shaken: your faith, your endurance, your identity in God. You are learning to stand not because of what surrounds you, but because of who sustains you. This is the hour when heaven resets your rhythm, aligns your heart, and refines your focus. The prophet Isaiah declared in his writings, chapter 61, Verse 3, He gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. These words are not poetic comfort, they are divine decree. What you lost will be replaced with something greater. Your mourning will turn to music. Your ashes will become the soil of new beginnings. Don't rush the process. A divine reset cannot be microwaved. It must be lived, breathed, endured. When a seed is planted, it's buried in darkness before it sprouts. That's where you are now, in the hidden soil, unseen but alive. Heaven has buried you, not to end you, but to grow you. One day soon, you will rise from this soil, stronger, wiser, and more radiant than before. You will understand that what seemed like divine silence was actually divine construction. God was not ignoring you. He was engineering your comeback. There's a reason you are reading this at this very moment. Heaven wants you to stop mourning what was and start anticipating what will be. Stop rehearsing the loss and start rejoicing in the preparation. You are not in a grave, you are in a womb. This is not death, this is birth. Let your heart believe again. Let your spirit awaken to the truth that endings are illusions to those who walk with God. Nothing truly ends in His presence, it only transforms. What He begins, He finishes, and He has begun something new in you. Right here, right now. Beloved, hear this clearly. Your reset is not random. It is divine. The people who left were meant to. The doors that closed were necessary. The prayers that seemed unanswered were being rerouted for your protection. Every no from heaven was making room for a greater yes. So stand tall, even in uncertainty. Keep your hands open and your heart soft. You are not empty. You are being refilled. You are not finished. You are being rewritten. The same spirit that hovered over chaos in Genesis now hovers over your life, ready to create something new. And when doubt whispers, "It's over," let your spirit respond, "It's just beginning," because every divine reset starts with an unraveling and ends with resurrection. Now, if this word has found you, if you can feel that stirring in your heart, the quiet awareness that heaven is rebuilding you from the ground up, then declare it with faith. Comment below the prophetic number 888 as a sign of your agreement with divine renewal. The number 8 represents new beginnings, and by writing it, you are prophetically stepping into yours. As you do, let it be more than a gesture. Let it be a declaration to heaven and earth that you are ready for the reset, ready for the rebirth, ready for the restoration that has your name written upon it. Chosen one, rise, step into the new rhythm of grace. Your old chapter is closed. Your new one is already being written in the ink of purpose and promise. The weight you carry is not a curse, it is holy. You may have mistaken it for punishment, for the consequence of being too sensitive or too hopeful. But it is not that at all. It is sacred trust. Heaven saw the strength of your soul and decided you were capable of carrying more than most. You were entrusted with battles not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to bear the burden and still keep your heart tender. There is a reason your spirit feels things deeply, why your heart breaks easily, why injustice burns in your bones. It is because you are carrying part of heaven's heart within you. The weight you feel is not yours alone. It is the echo of divine empathy. You are a vessel of compassion, shaped by both pain and purpose. You were chosen to intercede, to stand in the gap for others, to feel what they cannot express, and to pray what they cannot find words for. Some days, this sacred weight feels unbearable. You wake with heaviness before the day begins. You smile, yet something deep within aches with unspoken longing. That is not weakness, it is calling. You have been entrusted with the emotions of heaven, and such sensitivity is both gift and warfare. The more light you carry, the more darkness will test it. Remember this, the greatest crowns are forged from the heaviest crosses. Those who bear divine weight are never given easy roads. You were not meant to walk a path of comfort, but a path of consequence. Every chosen one must endure the pressure that shapes purpose. The oil that flows from your life, the healing, the wisdom, the compassion comes only from the crushing. Without the weight, there is no oil. When you wonder why your shoulders ache with invisible burdens, know this, you are being prepared for divine responsibility. The prayers that you whisper in exhaustion move mountains you will never see. The tears you shed in private water, the soil of someone else's breakthrough. Heaven measures strength not by loudness, but by endurance, and you, beloved, have endured more than most. The words of Jesus echo through the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. These are not empty words. They are an invitation to exchange your human weariness for divine renewal. God does not remove your calling. He strengthens you to carry it. He does not mock your weakness. He meets you within it. You were not meant to bear the weight alone. You are yoked to Christ, and his shoulders never tire. The divine partnership allows you to carry what would otherwise crush you. It is why, though you've fallen many times, you've never been destroyed. Grace always finds a way to lift you again. Sometimes, heaven allows heaviness to keep you close. If life were too easy, your prayers might grow distant. Your spirit might grow distracted. But through the weight, you remain aware of your dependence. You remain sensitive to his presence. What feels like burden is actually the thread that keeps you tied to God's heart. Chosen one, you are learning a sacred rhythm to carry and to rest, to labor and to lean. The weight you hold is holy, but it does not belong entirely to you. You are a steward, not an owner. The dreams, the intercessions, the compassion, all of it flows through you like a river. You are not meant to store it. You are meant to release it. Every time you release what you carry through prayer, through forgiveness, through love, you lighten the world a little more. Your obedience ripples farther than you know. There are people alive today because you prayed. There are storms that calmed because you believed. There are hearts that healed because you carried the weight long enough to hand it back to God. Do not despise your sensitivity. The world calls it weakness, but heaven calls it assignment. You were created to feel deeply because empathy is the language of those who walk close to God. To carry holy weight is to participate in the redemption of the world. Your tears are sacred ink, writing stories of grace on the pages of eternity. When your spirit grows tired, remember this truth. Even Jesus, carrying the cross, stumbled under its weight, yet he did not quit. And neither will you. The same strength that raised him from the grave is the strength that lives within you. You carry heaven's heart, and heaven carries you. So do not ask for the weight to be taken away. Ask for stronger shoulders to bear it. Ask for deeper peace within it. For one day, when your race is done and your purpose complete, you will hear the voice of God say, "Well done, faithful one. You carried what others could not." And in that moment, every burden will turn to blessing, and every ache will be crowned with eternal glory. Every wilderness has an expiration date. You may not see the finish line yet, but it exists, written in heaven's timing, sealed by the hand of God. The dry ground beneath your feet will not always remain barren. The heat that scorches your faith today will one day yield fruit you could never imagine. You were never meant to wander forever. You were meant to be transformed in the wandering. The wilderness is a strange place. It strips away everything that once defined you. There are no crowds, no applause, no explanations that make sense. You look around and realize that nothing familiar remains. It feels empty, endless, cruel. But beneath the silence, something sacred is happening. The wilderness is where God teaches you to listen without distraction, to trust without evidence, and to walk by faith, not sight. Every chosen one must walk through their own desert season. Even Jesus was led into the wilderness before his public ministry began. That barren place is not punishment, it is preparation. In the wilderness, the noise of the world is silenced, and the voice of God becomes unmistakably clear. It is where he trains your discernment, reshapes your desires, and detoxes your heart from every attachment that cannot walk into the next season. You may not recognize it yet, but the wilderness is not empty. It is filled with divine activity. While you see scarcity, heaven sees strategy. The dryness that frustrates you is actually creating space for new rain. The loneliness that hurts you is teaching you how to commune with the unseen. The hunger that gnaws at you is shaping your appetite for righteousness. The prophet Isaiah wrote of this mystery in chapter 35, verse 1, "The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus." These words are not poetic exaggeration, they are prophecy. God specializes in making deserts bloom. He turns wastelands into gardens and ashes into altars. If he could bring life out of dust in the beginning, he can bring beauty out of your barrenness now. There is a rhythm to the wilderness. First, there is stripping, the removal of everything that once gave you comfort. Then there is silence, the moment when prayers seem to echo unanswered. And finally, there is revelation, the point when you realize that God has been speaking the whole time. Not with words, but with presence. It is in that quiet realization that strength begins to grow again. You have cried out, "Lord, how much longer must I stay here?" Heaven answers, "Until you learn that I am enough." For the wilderness does not end when your circumstances change. It ends when your perception does. The moment you understand that God himself is your portion, the desert loses its power to defeat you, even in your weakest days. The wilderness has been working for you. It has been pruning distractions, strengthening endurance, and stretching your capacity to trust. Every dry moment has been teaching you how to find rivers in unlikely places, grace in grief, hope in hardship, faith in famine. When the Israelites wandered for 40 years, it wasn't because God forgot them. It was because he was forming them. He was teaching them dependence. He was revealing his daily provision, manna from heaven, water from a rock. Every morning they woke up to a miracle disguised as routine. The wilderness became their classroom. And though many despised it, those who learned its lessons inherited the promise. Chosen one, you are walking the same kind of path. The unfamiliar terrain beneath your feet is not a mistake, it's a map. Each hardship marks a point on your spiritual journey, leading you closer to your appointed place. The wilderness is not a delay, it's the training ground of destiny. There will come a moment when the season shifts. You will wake one morning, and the air will feel different. The heaviness will lift. The silence will break. And you will realize the desert has done its work. What once felt lifeless will begin to stir with signs of new growth. The same ground that cracked under your tears will bloom beneath your praise. When that day comes, you'll understand why God had to take you through this lonely place. It wasn't to punish you, but to prepare you to value the promise when it finally arrives. For those who have been hungry in the wilderness will never take manna for granted again. Those who have walked through silence will cherish the sound of his voice with new reverence. So, do not despise this barren season. Do not curse the heat or the isolation. You are not lost, you are being led. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. Every wilderness has an exit, and yours is closer than you think. When it comes, you will not just leave the desert, you will emerge as one who knows the way through it. A guide for others still wandering. A living testimony that dry ground can indeed bloom again. You were built for the storm. Every gust that tried to bend you, every wave that crashed against your faith, every moment when it felt like you would break, these were not signs of failure. They were confirmations of your strength. The storm does not come to the fragile, it comes to the fortified. God knew the storm was coming long before you did, and he still chose you. Why? Because he built you with spiritual steel. The winds you are facing now are not here to destroy you, they are here to reveal you. Just as the storm exposes what is rooted and what is shallow, this season is proving what in you is unshakable. You have endured things that others could not, and though you have been battered, you have not been broken. Heaven looks upon you and says, still standing. There is something powerful about a soul that has learned to remain calm in chaos. You have discovered that peace is not the absence of the storm, but the presence of God within it. The waves may roar, but your spirit has found its anchor. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness, your refusal to sink. When the disciples were trapped in a violent storm on the Sea of Galilee, they panicked as the waves threatened to swallow their small boat. Yet Jesus was asleep in the midst of it, resting in complete peace. When they cried out to him, he awoke and simply spoke, "Peace, be still." The winds obeyed. The sea fell silent. That same voice still speaks over your life. It was recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 8, verse 27. Even the winds and the sea obey him. The power that calmed the storm 2,000 years ago is the same power that surrounds you today. Heaven's authority has not weakened with time. The one who walks upon waves is still walking toward you, even when you can't see him clearly through the rain. You may feel drenched in uncertainty right now, questions soaking through every corner of your mind. You may not understand why the storm lasted this long, but trust this truth: if the storm hasn't stopped, it's because there's still something in you being strengthened. God doesn't waste wind. Every gust has purpose. Every wave shapes your faith into something fierce, unmovable, and eternal. The reason you've survived what others didn't is simple: you were built differently. The foundations of your life were laid in prayer, in pain, and in perseverance. While others crumble at the first sign of resistance, you've learned to stand tall, even when shaking. You've learned to let the rain wash you clean rather than drown you. Do not be ashamed of the storms you've faced. They are not evidence of failure, they are badges of endurance. Every scar on your soul is a record of where the tempest tried and failed to take you down. You have weathered spiritual hurricanes and emotional floods, yet your faith remains. That alone is proof of divine design. Sometimes, God allows the wind to rise, not to test your fragility, but to announce your resilience. Heaven wants the world to see what unyielding faith looks like. And when the storm finally breaks, when the clouds roll back and the first ray of sun touches your face, you'll understand you weren't fighting against the wind, you were learning how to soar upon it. The eagle does not flee from storms. It spreads its wings and rises above them, using the very wind that threatened to destroy it as the force that lifts it higher. You are that eagle. You are learning to glide on what was meant to grind you down. Every wave that once terrified you will soon become testimony. Every wind that once resisted you will propel you into your next season. The same storm that brought fear will bring favor. You will come out of this not soaked in sorrow but shining with strength. And when that happens, remember the lesson of this moment. Peace is not about calm weather, it's about trust in the middle of chaos. The waves may roar, but your faith roars louder. Now, if your heart recognizes this truth, if you know deep within that you were built for this, declare it aloud as an act of faith. Comment below the simple phrase, "Still I rise," to mark your agreement with heaven's decree. Let it be your anthem, your spiritual signature that no matter how fierce the storm, you will not sink. As you write it, let the words remind you that resilience is your inheritance. You are not defined by what you endure, but by what you overcome. You were not made to drift. You were made to dominate the waters. The storm is not your end. It is your elevation. You were built for the storm, chosen one. And the storm has only proven that heaven's architecture within you is flawless. The mantle of the overcomer rests upon your shoulders now. You did not ask for it, yet heaven placed it on you the moment you refused to surrender. Every scar you carry is not a sign of weakness, but a medal of endurance. Each one tells a story, stories of nights you nearly lost hope, mornings you rose anyway, prayers whispered in exhaustion that heaven recorded as victory. You wear those scars like armor, and they gleam in the light of divine triumph. Overcomers are not born in comfort. They are forged in chaos, refined by fire, and anointed through endurance. You have walked through seasons that broke others, but you kept walking. You have cried prayers that sounded like silence, but you never stopped speaking to heaven. You may not have realized it, but your perseverance has been shaping a crown in the unseen realm. Every act of obedience, every moment of forgiveness, every tear surrendered in faith has added another jewel to that crown. When the world looked away, heaven leaned closer. The nights you spent questioning everything became the forge where your spirit was strengthened. Each unanswered prayer carved depth into your faith, and each delay polished the crown being prepared for you. Hidden seasons have been holy seasons. You just didn't see the shine through the shadows. Now, as the light begins to break through, that unseen crown begins to gleam. Heaven's hand places it upon you, not because of flawless victory, but because of faithful endurance. You have been tested and proven trustworthy. Every scar now reflects glory. Every wound now glows with wisdom. You are walking proof that surrender can still lead to strength. The Apostle Paul once wrote in his letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 37, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." Notice the phrase, "in all these things." It doesn't say after the pain or beyond the struggle. It says in them. You become victorious not because you avoid hardship, but because you overcome it from within. Victory, for the chosen, is not about escape, it's about endurance. You have learned to walk through the fire without letting it burn your faith. You've discovered that strength is not loud. Sometimes it's simply surviving another day with grace. That quiet perseverance is what separates the called from the chosen. And make no mistake, you are chosen. Picture this, a blacksmith in his forge. Sparks dance around him as he hammers molten metal into shape. Each strike seems violent, yet every blow is purposeful. The heat is unbearable, but it's the only way the metal becomes a sword. That's you. Heaven's blacksmith has held you in the flame not to destroy, but to define you. Every strike has refined your spirit. Every test has strengthened your edge. You are no longer fragile. You are forged. And now, heaven says, wear your mantle. The same storms that once shook you will now bow before the authority you've gained in overcoming them. You no longer react, you command. You no longer fear, you discern. The battles that terrified you have become your testimony. You walk differently, now calmer, stronger, aware that the same God who carried you through will continue to lead you on. Beloved, when heaven crowns you, it is not with gold or glitter, it is with grace. It is with wisdom that cannot be bought, peace that cannot be imitated, and love that cannot be shaken. That is the true mantle of the overcomer. You carry it now, even if you don't yet feel it resting upon your shoulders. And as you carry it, understand this, your story has power. There are hearts waiting to hear it, souls waiting to be lifted by it. When you share this message, when you like, subscribe, or even support this space through a small donation, you are not fueling a platform, you are feeding a mission. You are turning your own healing into someone else's hope. Think of it as lighting a lantern in a long tunnel. Each act of support, each click, each share is another light flickering into existence. And somewhere out there, someone wandering in the dark might see that glow and find the courage to keep walking. You have no idea how far your small act of faith can travel when heaven carries it on the wind. If your heart ever feels moved to give, think of it not as a transaction, but as a seed. Seeds don't look like much when they're planted, but given time, they grow into trees that offer shelter to others. That's what your generosity does. It keeps this garden of words alive, a place where the weary can rest and remember that they, too, are overcomers. This calling, this message, this entire journey, it's not about building fame. It's about building faith. It's about creating a ripple of hope that keeps expanding long after this voice stops speaking. And every time you engage, you become part of that ripple. So carry your mantle with humility. You didn't earn it by perfection. You received it by perseverance. You wear it not to boast, but to bless. Let your life be the evidence that victory is possible, that faith still works, that God still raises warriors out of ashes. Chosen one, the mantle of the overcomer fits you perfectly, and as you wear it, may every step you take remind the world that glory follows endurance. and crowns are only given to those who refuse to give up. There are moments when you stand at the threshold of something new, but your heart trembles because you cannot see what lies ahead. The silence of heaven feels heavy, and the path before you seems clouded with uncertainty. Yet even in the unseen, something is shifting, something divine, something ancient, something promised. The invisible realm has already begun to move on your behalf. You may not hear footsteps, but angels are walking toward your next door. God has not forgotten the prayers you whispered in the dark. He has stored them like seeds in the soil of time. You thought they disappeared, but heaven has been watering them in secret. Now, as the appointed season arrives, the ground beneath you begins to stir. Answers you thought were lost are awakening. Doors that were sealed are unlocking. What seemed dormant is breathing again. Chosen one, the unseen realm is never idle. When you rest, heaven still works. When you wait, angels still move. Even when you feel suspended between endings and beginnings, heaven's design remains active, weaving miracles through the fabric of your waiting. You have been asking, when will it happen? But God has already decreed. It is happening. There is more taking place in the invisible than you realize. Every act of faith, every time you chose kindness over anger, trust over fear, prayer over panic was a command that rippled through the heavens. Angels respond to faith the way sound responds to music. They move when you believe. Your obedience has released movement in realms you cannot yet see. For it is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." This promise has no expiration. It was true for David. It was true for Daniel. And it is true for you. You are not walking alone into what's next. You are escorted, protected, surrounded. If only your eyes could be opened for a moment, you would see the brightness that travels with you, the light that stands at the corners of your home, the presence that guards your rest. You would see divine hands diverting harm, redirecting danger, rearranging circumstances so that you can walk unharmed through what others could not survive. There is no chaos that heaven cannot manage, no darkness that angels cannot pierce. You may see obstacles, but they see assignments. You may see walls, but they see doors disguised as stone. The spiritual realm does not panic, it positions. It does not rush, it prepares. You are living in the tension between heaven's completion and earth's unveiling. You may have noticed subtle shifts, dreams that feel unusually vivid, an inner restlessness, sudden moments of peace without explanation. These are not random sensations, they are signals. The spiritual atmosphere around you is thick with movement. What has been long delayed is finally aligning. The doors are ready. And so are you. Think of how a sunrise works. Before the light appears, there is stillness, then faint color, then a slow unfolding of brilliance across the horizon. That's what is happening in your life right now. The dawn has begun. Even if the full sun hasn't risen yet, the air carries the scent of a new day. The shadows that once intimidated you are already losing strength. God often works in hidden patterns, not because he wishes to confuse you, but because mystery protects miracles. Some things must remain unseen until the appointed hour, lest premature hands try to open what heaven still seals. Trust the timing. Trust the unseen. The silence you interpret as delay is often the sound of God building foundations deep beneath the surface. Chosen one. This new door is not an ordinary door. It is a threshold between seasons, a passage from endurance to reward. But understand this, heaven does not open doors for those who are merely curious. It opens them for those who are ready. The waiting has prepared your hands, the pain has purified your heart. When the door swings wide, step through boldly, knowing you have been prepared for this exact moment. The angels that guard you are not passive observers. They are sent with purpose to open pathways, to whisper direction, to strengthen your resolve. Every coincidence that leads you closer to destiny is divine coordination. Every delay that spared you from disaster was a heavenly detour. You have not been wandering, you've been escorted by mercy. There are things you cannot yet see but are already unfolding, people being positioned, resources being released, hearts being softened, favor being arranged. The very obstacles that once blocked you are being turned into stepping stones. Heaven's architecture is detailed and precise. Not one piece will be out of place when the door finally opens. And when it does, you'll realize something extraordinary. The angels were never just leading you to the door. They were standing at it all along, guarding the promise until you were ready to receive it. Their presence has been constant, their watch unbroken. So, take comfort in this truth. You are not waiting for heaven to remember you. Heaven is already working for you. The unseen realm moves with precision, and your name is written on its agenda. Every whisper of faith you've released into the air has been heard. Every act of endurance has been honored. The next door is not a chance encounter. It is divine appointment. Walk forward, beloved, with quiet confidence. For though you cannot see the wings beside you, they are there, steady, radiant, and unwavering. The unseen has never been so close. And soon what is hidden will stand revealed in glorious light. This is your prophetic turning point. Everything that was once closed, everything that seemed delayed or denied, is standing on the edge of reversal. You have reached the line where old battles end and new beginnings breathe. Heaven is whispering a decree that resounds through time itself. I am not done. What you thought was final was only the middle. What looked like a full stop was actually a comma in God's sentence of destiny. You may feel weary, wondering if the promise has passed you by. But beloved, destiny cannot expire when the author still holds the pen. Your story is being rewritten even now, not erased, not discarded, but reworked into glory. Every disappointment has become a sentence of redemption. Every delay has been turned into divine timing. You are standing on sacred ground, the intersection of what was broken and what will be blessed. This is the hour when heaven reverses verdicts. Situations that looked sealed are about to shift. You will see it first in small ways, a message that arrives unexpectedly, a door that quietly opens, a burden that lifts without explanation. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven has released its decree, and time itself must now obey. When God says, I am not done, everything unfinished in your life must awaken. Dormant dreams begin to stir. Prayers that you buried in disappointment start to breathe again. What you thought was forgotten rises from the dust, glowing with fresh purpose. The Spirit of God hovers over what you once called hopeless and whispers, live. It was recorded in the Revelation of John, chapter 3, verse 8. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. That word was not just for the church in ancient times, it's for you. Here, now, the doors that heaven opens cannot be locked by man, fear, or failure. The key is divine favor, and it is already turning in your direction. You have walked through fire, but the fire was not your end. It was your refining. You were stripped, not to shame you, but to reveal the gold that religion, pride, and pain once covered. The world saw ashes, but heaven saw potential. And now, the same ashes are glowing signs of rebirth under divine breath. Chosen one. This turning point does not come with noise. It comes quietly, like dawn breaking through long night. You won't need to chase it or beg for it. The shift has already begun. Heaven moves differently. It doesn't announce change. It becomes change. You simply wake up one morning, and everything feels lighter. The heaviness that used to follow you dissolves. The doors that used to reject you swing wide. But hear this carefully, this moment requires faith that speaks, not just feels. When God says, "I am not done," you must agree with that decree. You must align your voice with heaven's, because prophecy is not magic, it's partnership. Heaven releases the word. You activate it through belief. Your turning point is both spiritual and practical. The Spirit is moving, but so must you. Move differently. Think differently. Expect differently. Prepare for the blessing as though it has already arrived. When you act like it's coming, heaven calls it faith, and faith draws fulfillment closer. You may still see remnants of old pain, but don't let that discourage you. Every birthing process involves remnants of what once was. You are not failing, you are transitioning. The trembling you feel is not fear, it's transformation. Even now, heaven is organizing divine appointments. Someone is being prompted to mention your name in rooms you've never entered. Opportunities are being stirred awake. Chains are falling quietly, without spectacle. God is doing this work not to impress you, but to position you. When it unfolds, you'll know it was never luck. It was always orchestration. Take this as confirmation the season of almost is over. You are stepping into actually. No more near victories. No more half blessings. No more cycles of almost breaking through, but never quite making it. The door before you is not symbolic, it is real, spiritual, and active. Now, if these words resonate in the deepest part of you, if something in your spirit is whispering, "This is my moment," then respond in faith. Heaven honors agreement. Comment below the prophetic number 1111, a symbol of divine alignment and new beginnings. As you do, let it be your personal decree that you are aligned with heaven's timing, ready for the open door, and willing to walk through it. And as your fingers type those numbers, let it not just be an act of acknowledgement, but an act of prophecy. You are speaking order into chaos, declaring that your life now syncs with divine rhythm. Heaven takes note when the chosen agree. So lift your head, breathe deeply, and step forward. The old chapter has served its purpose. The new one begins now, not in the distant future, but in this very breath. You are walking into a sequence of miracles that were written long before you were born. The doors are opening. The decree is active, and heaven's words echo through eternity. I am not done, and neither, beloved, are you. When faith feels like fire, you learn what belief truly means. It's one thing to trust when everything is blooming. When prayers are answered and doors are open, it's another to trust when you stand in the middle of flames. When everything you once depended on begins to melt away. This is the place where surface faith is consumed and only genuine belief survives. The fire is not meant to punish you. Beloved, it's meant to purify you. You have been in a season where faith no longer feels gentle. It burns. It stretches you. It demands more than you thought you had. You wake in the morning and wonder if you still believe. Not because you've lost faith, but because faith has become heavier. Yet even in that weight, there is holy worth. The fire you're feeling is proof that you are still being refined, not rejected. When gold enters the furnace, it loses its impurities, but it also loses its shape. That's what the fire of faith does. It unforms you before it reforms you. You begin to let go of what you thought God should do so that you can embrace what He is actually doing. It hurts to release your expectations, but that's how faith matures. Real faith doesn't demand explanation. It stands in the unknown and says, even if I don't understand, I still trust. You have been asking, why does my faith feel so fragile? The answer is this: because fragile faith is the seed of strong faith. When you feel like you're breaking, you're actually bending into deeper trust. You are learning that faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's the quiet choice to believe when belief costs you comfort. The Apostle James wrote in his letter, chapter 1, verse 3, the testing of your faith produces perseverance. These words are not poetic, they are prophetic. Faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. But once tested, it becomes a weapon against despair. Every trial you've endured has been sharpening your belief until it can cut through doubt like a blade through darkness. When faith feels like fire, you must remember that even flames have purpose. Fire purges, but it also illuminates. It exposes what's true and consumes what's false. That is why, in this season, everything that cannot stay is leaving you: relationships, habits, mindsets, attachments. The fire burns away what clings to you but cannot carry you forward. And though it hurts to lose, it is mercy to release. Even the 3 Hebrew men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were not spared from the furnace, yet they were preserved in it. The fire that should have consumed them became the very stage upon which God revealed His glory. When the king looked into the flames, he saw not 3, but 4, and the 4th. He said, "Looks like the Son of God." That same presence is with you now, walking through your fire, unseen but undeniably real. The truth is, the most sacred revelations come in the hottest flames. When faith burns, vision clears. When everything else is stripped away, you begin to see who God truly is, not a distant deity, but a present refuge. The fire does not destroy intimacy, it deepens it. It teaches you to trust not just in what God does, but in who He is. Do not be ashamed of your questions in this season. Even fire-tested faith trembles. Even Jesus, in His final agony, cried out, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Yet even that cry was still faith. It was prayer addressed to the Father, not to the void. The cry itself proved connection. The very fact that you're still speaking to heaven, even through tears, means your faith is alive and active. When you emerge from this fire, and you will, you won't look like what you've been through. The smell of smoke will not cling to you. Your eyes will carry wisdom. Your heart will carry compassion. And your spirit will carry authority. You will be able to look at others still standing in their own flames and tell them, you will make it through too. That is the ministry of the refined, to bring comfort born from endurance. Remember, this faith does not flourish in the absence of heat. It thrives in it. Every ember that tried to consume you has instead refined you. Every delay has deepened you. Every unanswered prayer has rooted you more firmly in trust. So, if your faith feels like fire right now, don't run. Stay. Let it burn what it must. Let it refine what it can. The flames that surround you are not your end, they are your becoming. And soon, when the light breaks through, you will understand that the fire was never against you. It was for you. It was heaven's way of ensuring that what emerges from your life is pure, radiant, and enduring. You will come forth, not weakened, but strengthened, faith-tested, faith-tempered, faith triumphant. You will rise from what tried to bury you. The weight that once pressed you into the ground will become the very platform from which you stand taller. What was meant for your destruction has been secretly training your resurrection. Heaven does not waste pain, and you are living proof that divine purpose can be born from disaster. There were moments you thought you were finished, moments when life collapsed without warning, when betrayal cut deep, when dreams died quietly in your hands. You buried hope beneath the soil of disappointment and told yourself, it's over. But what you didn't realize was that God never calls something buried unless He intends to raise it again. You were not buried to be forgotten. You were planted to grow. Every seed must go underground before it reaches the light. To the natural eye, that looks like death, darkness, isolation, silence. But in the unseen, the soil is doing its work. Hidden beneath the weight of earth, a transformation begins. Roots spread, strength deepens, and life quietly pushes upward. That is what has been happening to you. The darkness you resented was actually your incubation. You thought everything around you was falling apart, but heaven saw that everything was falling into place. The betrayal that broke your heart was the very thing that released you from what could have bound you forever. The closed doors you wept over were the walls that redirected your purpose. God has been turning endings into entrances, sorrow into soil. The psalmist David wrote in his Songs of Deliverance, chapter 37, verse 24, though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. There is no fall deep enough to escape the reach of God's grasp. You may have stumbled, but you were never abandoned. You fell into the hand of mercy, not into oblivion. Every time life pushed you down, heaven's hand pushed you back up. And each time you rose stronger. You rose with understanding, with wisdom, with compassion that cannot be taught, only lived. The crushing seasons did not reduce you, they revealed you. You learned that resilience is not arrogance, it's evidence that grace is still at work. When a tree is cut down, it seems finished. Yet, beneath the soil, its roots remember. They drink from the deep, and soon a new shoot emerges, green and defiant against the memory of loss. That's who you are now. You are the shoot that refused to stay buried. You are the sprout of promise in a field of ashes. The same ground that held your pain now holds your purpose. There is divine poetry in the way God redeems. He doesn't simply erase what hurt you. He transforms it into the very thing that helps others heal. The tears you shed became oil for someone else's restoration. The scars you carry became maps for those still lost in their storms. You were not resurrected for your sake alone. You were raised so you could reach others still trapped underground. Do not despise the seasons that tried to destroy you. They are now part of your anointing. You cannot preach about resurrection unless you've been buried. You cannot speak of faith unless you've felt despair. The darkness gave you credibility, and the light has given you a platform. Together, they make you whole. You are no longer the same person who entered that valley. Your steps are slower, perhaps, but steadier. Your voice carries authority, not from victory alone, but from survival. You don't just talk about hope, you embody it. People will look at you and see living evidence that ashes can still carry beauty, that endings can still bloom into beginnings. Chosen one. The resurrection story in your life is still being written. Do not rush to close the book. Let every new day testify that what God resurrects stays risen. The stone that once sealed your hope has been rolled away, and light now floods the tomb. This is not the season of defeat, it's the season of emergence. You are stepping out of the grave of your old identity into the field of your destiny. You have been pressed, but not crushed, struck down, but not destroyed. Everything that was meant to bury you has become a witness to your rising. Stand tall in this new dawn. Let the world see the soil still clinging to your roots. It's proof that you came from deep places. You have walked through the shadows and found the sun. You have been broken, but never beyond repair. The same voice that called Lazarus from the tomb still calls your name today. And just as he rose, so have you. You are walking out of everything that once held you captive, leaving behind the wrappings of grief. Stepping barefoot into resurrection ground, you will rise not because you are strong, but because He is faithful. And once you rise, you will never be buried the same way again. For now, every fall only becomes another reminder that you carry resurrection in your very bones. The call to stand firm is sounding again, and heaven is looking for those who will not bow to fear, nor bend beneath pressure. You, chosen one, are among them. You have stood when it was easier to sit down, believed when logic screamed otherwise, and kept walking when your strength was gone. This kind of endurance does not come from willpower, it comes from divine anchoring. Faith is not built on comfort, it is built on consistency. Standing firm does not mean you feel no fear, it means you refuse to let fear make your choices. There were moments when doubt whispered louder than faith, yet you still rose. There were days when your hope was fragile as glass, yet you still protected it as if it were a flame in the wind. That flame, small as it seemed, has been enough to light the next step forward. Even in moments when your flame flickered, heaven never let it die. Divine breath hovered over your weakness, keeping that small spark alive until strength returned. What felt like failure was actually faith in disguise, tiny, trembling, but still burning, proving that persistence itself is worship in the language of heaven. And every time you chose to rise again, that flame grew steadier. It began to light more than your own path. It illuminated others walking beside you. Faith multiplied through your endurance, turning your quiet perseverance into a living sermon. You have become a torchbearer of hope, carrying light that refuses to bow before darkness. The Apostle Paul spoke in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. This is more than advice. It's a divine reminder that stability in faith bears fruit, even when results are unseen. Heaven has watched your persistence. Every unseen act of obedience has been recorded. To stand firm is to plant your roots deep into the soil of trust. Storms may shake the branches, but the tree that knows where it draws its water will not fall. You are that tree, roots buried in prayer, trunk strengthened by patience, leaves nourished by grace. The wind only proves your stability. Standing firm does not mean standing still. Even trees sway with the wind, even mountains shift under the earth's rhythm. It means refusing to surrender your foundation when the world trembles. You may adjust, you may bend, you may weep, but you will not break. You have become a living monument of perseverance, and heaven delights in your steadfast spirit. Think of a lighthouse standing against the sea. Waves crash, storms howl, night falls without mercy, yet its light remains unbroken. The reason? Its foundation runs deep into the rock below. That is what faith does. It roots you into the rock of ages. You are that lighthouse, shining through storms for others lost in the waves. You may not realize it, but your resilience has already guided others back to shore. Still, even lighthouses need tending. Their lamps require oil to keep burning. Their glass needs cleaning. Their keepers need rest. In the same way, this message, this sanctuary of words, needs light keepers like you. When you like, share, subscribe, or even give, you're not feeding an algorithm, you're refilling the lamp. You're keeping the light burning for someone drifting in darkness, someone who has not yet found their way home. Think of your engagement not as digital, but spiritual. Every click becomes a spark, every comment a flame that tells heaven, I am still standing. And when you support this space through your gifts, it's not a transaction, it's a testimony. It says, I believe in keeping the fire alive. Even a small donation is like pouring oil into the lamp. It ensures the light never fades. We live in a time when many lights are dimming. People are weary. Faith feels fragile. Hope is hard to hold. But you, yes, you are part of the remnant keeping the light visible. Your faith sustains others. Your participation creates ripple effects you may never see, but heaven counts everyone. Standing firm also means being present, standing with others who stumble, encouraging those who have grown cold, reminding those who have forgotten that faith still works. The steady heart of one believer can strengthen the trembling heart of another. Imagine a mountain path, winding and steep. The air is thin, and the climb feels endless. Then, far ahead, you see a lantern swaying in the dark, someone who walked before you, waiting, holding light so you can find your way. That's what your presence here does. When you share this message, you pass the lantern on. You tell the next soul, you are not alone on this climb. Every generation needs its light keepers. Every era needs its steadfast ones. The world grows colder, but the chosen rise warmer, burning with faith that refuses to die. And you are among them. You are not small in heaven's sight. You are part of a constellation of endurance. Each act of standing creating light across the darkness. So continue. Beloved, not with fear, but with quiet courage. Continue to stand, to share, to hold light. Heaven is counting on your endurance, not because God needs it, but because others do. You are a pillar in a world of shifting sand, a steady flame in a world of wind. When history looks back, it will not remember the noise of the storm. It will remember the ones who still shone through it. And your light, your faith, your steadfast heart will be among them. There is a kind of glory that only comes after obedience. It does not arrive through applause or achievement, but through quiet surrender, through the yes whispered in the dark, through the decision to trust even when nothing makes sense. This is the glory that follows obedience. And it is approaching your life now. You have walked through long corridors of uncertainty. There were doors that did not open, prayers that echoed without reply, and moments where silence felt louder than faith. Yet still, you obeyed. You kept showing up when no one noticed. You kept believing when no one clapped. That kind of obedience is rare. It is sacred. Heaven calls it faithfulness. And faithfulness never returns void. In the kingdom of God, obedience is not about performance. It is about alignment. It is saying yes to what heaven asks, even when you do not understand why. Sometimes obedience looks like movement going where you are called. Other times, it looks like stillness waiting when you'd rather run. Both are holy, because both demand trust. Many confuse obedience with loss, but in truth, it is the path to gain. Every time you surrendered something, an opportunity, a relationship, a dream, you didn't lose it, you planted it. Seeds of obedience may disappear into the soil, but they always rise again in greater form. The harvest may take time, but it is inevitable. God never forgets what was given out of love. The ancient prophet Isaiah recorded it plainly. Chapter 1, verse 19. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. That promise was not meant for those who obey out of fear, but for those who obey out of devotion. Obedience opens doors that talent cannot, and keeps them open through humility. There is a hidden rhythm in obedience. It begins with surrender, continues through endurance, and ends with glory. Surrender breaks pride, endurance builds character, and glory reveals purpose. That is why you have endured so much. Heaven was preparing you to carry blessing without arrogance, to handle abundance with gratitude. You have passed tests you didn't know were tests. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, every time you gave when you barely had enough, every time you kept walking when quitting looked easier, you were proving that obedience had taken root in your heart. Heaven saw every unseen act. The angels recorded every hidden yes. And now, the reward is drawing near. Obedience has a fragrance, the aroma of trust. It rises like incense before God, invisible yet undeniable. It is not your voice alone that heaven hears, it is your life that speaks. When you obey, even in small things, your very existence becomes a prayer. Sometimes glory comes softly. It doesn't always arrive with trumpets or thunder. It enters through peace that replaces panic, through restoration that feels natural, through opportunities that find you instead of you chasing them. You might not even realize at first that it has begun, that the reward of obedience has already started to bloom. It is like dawn spreading quietly across the sky. One moment it is night, the next, the horizon blushes with light. You rub your eyes and realize the darkness has retreated. That is what obedience does. It invites light to linger where shadows once lived. The world measures success by visibility. Heaven measures it by obedience. People might never see what it cost you to stay faithful. They may never know how many times you cried behind closed doors before returning to your post. But God saw. He measured every tear, every breath, every act of surrender. You have not obeyed in vain. There will come a day when all of it makes sense. The detours, the disappointments, the long waits. You will see how each moment of surrender became a stepping stone, guiding you toward the life God designed long before you were born. You will see how obedience, though heavy, was the compass that never failed you. And when that day comes, glory will not just touch your circumstances, it will rest upon you. It will radiate from your countenance, not because you sought it, but because you allowed God to lead you there. True glory does not shout, it shines. It hums softly through peace that cannot be shaken, joy that does not depend on outcome, love that never grows cold. You will realize that obedience was never about control, it was about communion. Every yes brought you closer to the heart of the Father. Every surrender deepened your connection with Him. And now, as you stand on the other side of so many unseen battles, heaven whispers, "You have done well. You trusted me, and I will honor that trust." This is the moment when everything shifts, not because you chased blessing, but because you chose obedience. The glory that follows it will not be fleeting, it will be foundational. It will anchor you, illuminate others, and mark your life with the unmistakable signature of divine favor. Chosen one, the waiting is ending. The reward is near. You have obeyed, and heaven is answering. What was once hidden will now be revealed, not for your fame, but for God's glory reflected through your life. You will shine, not because you sought to, but because obedience has made you luminous, crowned for completion. Those words sound final, yet they do not mean the end, they mean fulfillment. Completion is not the closing of a story, it is the full circle of divine intention. You, chosen one, have reached a sacred turning where what began in tears will end in triumph. Heaven looks upon you and says, "You did not give up, and I was never finished with you." You may not realize how far you've come because survival has disguised your strength. You've been too focused on enduring to see how radiant your spirit has become. The fire that once frightened you has now become your light. The battles that once drained you have now become your armor. You carry evidence of endurance, quiet yet undeniable, written across the landscape of your soul. Completion is not perfection. It is the peace that arrives when you know you have done what was asked of you. It is not the absence of scars, but the awareness that even scars can shine. God never sought flawless obedience, He sought faithful hearts. And yours has remained loyal through storms that would have silenced others. You have learned to lean, to listen, to love again, even after loss. That is what completion looks like, not polished, but proven. There were seasons you questioned everything. When the silence of heaven felt like abandonment, you mistook divine stillness for divine distance. Yet, even then, God was closer than your breath. He was shaping, softening, strengthening every delay, every heartbreak. Every hidden moment was a line in a greater masterpiece. You could not see the image while it was being painted. But now the picture begins to emerge, one of redemption, restoration, and relentless grace. The Apostle Paul wrote near the end of his journey. In his second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 7, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." Those words are not a sigh of exhaustion, they are a song of victory. They speak of a life lived with holy persistence, a faith tested yet intact. And now those same words echo over your life. You have fought, you have endured, and though the race continues, you have crossed a milestone in the Spirit. Completion does not mean ease. It means maturity. It means you now know how to rest while the storm still rages, how to worship while the wound still aches, how to believe when the outcome remains unseen. You have graduated from striving into trusting. That is the highest form of strength, to stand not through effort, but through surrender. Heaven crowns you not because you've achieved much, but because you've allowed much to be transformed within you. Crowns are not rewards for perfection, they are symbols of perseverance. They testify that you have been through fire and remained faithful. You wear this invisible crown in your spirit, made not of gold or jewels, but of resilience, humility, and love. You are no longer the same person who began this journey. The one who started was searching for purpose. The one who stands now has become purpose. The one who once feared breaking has learned that breaking was the doorway to becoming whole. The one who once prayed for strength now carries strength in every word, every gesture, every quiet act of grace. Look at how heaven has reversed the narrative. Where there was confusion, there is clarity. Where there was despair, there is depth. Where there was loss, there is legacy. You are walking proof that divine completion does not erase pain, it redeems it. Every thread of suffering has been rewoven into beauty. And now, a new kind of peace settles upon you. Not the fragile peace of circumstance, but the steady peace of knowing that God has held every piece together all along. You do not have to strive anymore. You do not have to prove anything. You are complete in the one who began the work within you. The race is not over, but the chapter of wandering is. The endless striving for validation, the exhausting fear of failure, the restless search for answers, all of it yields now to peace. You have done what was required. You kept believing. You stayed when others fled. You stood when others fell. Heaven celebrates not with noise, but with stillness. When a mission reaches its divine fullness, creation itself pauses in reverence. And somewhere, in that quiet, you can almost hear it, the sound of heaven's gentle applause. Not for your strength, but for your surrender. So rest now. Chosen one, the journey continues, but you walk differently, lighter, wiser, crowned not with pride, but with peace. You have become what the fire could not consume, what darkness could not silence, what despair could not destroy. You are crowned for completion, and though heaven's words to you are simple, they are eternal. You did not give up, and I was never finished with you. Chosen one, you have reached the end of this journey, but not the end of your story. What you've just walked through in these words is not a conclusion, it's a commissioning. Heaven never ends a message with silence, It ends with sending. You are being sent into your next chapter stronger, wiser, and crowned with understanding. If these words have stirred something deep within you, take a moment to let gratitude rise. Let your heart whisper, "Thank you, Lord, for carrying me." You are not here by accident. Every paragraph, every sentence, every breath of this message was guided so that heaven could reach you right now, right here. Now, carry this light forward. Don't keep it sealed within your heart. Release it. Someone out there is standing where you once stood, fighting to believe that they, too, are chosen. Share this message as an act of kindness, as a seed of hope. When you like, share, and comment. You aren't just reacting, you're releasing. You are letting this divine echo travel farther, so that another soul can hear the same whisper that once revived you. Right below something simple, something true, your own declaration of faith. Like I'm still standing, or God carried me. Let it be a public amen, a sign that heaven's work through this message has taken root. And if you choose to subscribe or support, know this, you're helping to keep this light burning. You're helping a message of restoration reach others who scroll through darkness, looking for a word that saves them from giving up. The story of the chosen never ends, it multiplies. Go now with peace, with purpose, and with the reminder that heaven is still writing through you. You are not done. You are divine proof that grace still wins.